A couple of final comments about congressional control. External forces have also influenced agency decisions through what we call an iron triangle, the informal and exclusive policy relationships that bring together an agency, an interest group, and a congressional committee. More often, though, an agency will be faced with conflicting interest group demands. The National Farmers Union favors high subsidies to farmers, whereas the American Farm Bureau Federation takes a free market position. Organized labor favors strict enforcement by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, whereas businesses opposed. In these instances, issue networks emerge. These are an array of groups and individuals, often contentious, split along ideological, partisan, and economic lines. Congress has a formidable array of powers to deal with the bureaucracy. First, congressional statutes establish the existence of an agency and occasionally specify in detail how agencies should behave. Lately, however, Congress has given broad discretion to agencies. For many decades, Congress made use of the legislative veto to control bureaucratic or presidential actions by vetoing particular decisions within a 30 to 90-day period. However, in June 1983, the Supreme Court declared the legislative veto unconstitutional in the Chadha case. This decision's exact effect on congressional oversight of the bureaucracy still remains uncertain. As a second check on the bureaucracy, money must be authorized and then appropriated by Congress. Finally, congressional investigations are the most visible and dramatic form of oversight. One other comment on the legislative veto. I'm not sure that I agree with the fact that the decision's exact effect on congressional oversight have been uncertain. I think that the decision for a legislative veto has been a good thing, considering the fact that legislative vetoes per se are unconstitutional because the only one constitutionally that has the right to veto is the president. For the third theme, we're going to talk about bureaucratic pathologies. There are 5 major problems with bureaucracies: red tape, conflict, duplication, imperialism, and waste. You should know these, especially the whole issue about iron triangles, also for the AP exam. Red tape is the existence of complex rules and procedures that must be followed to get something done. Any large organization must have some way of ensuring that one part of the organization does not operate out of step with another. Conflict exists when some agencies work at cross purposes with other agencies. The Agricultural Research Service tells farmers how to grow crops more efficiently, while the Agricultural Stabilization and Conservation Service pays farmers to grow fewer crops. Because Congress has 535 members and little strong leadership, it's not surprising that it passes laws that promote inconsistent or even contradictory goals. Duplication occurs when 2 government agencies seem to be doing the same thing, as when the Customs Service and the Drug Enforcement Administration both attempt to intercept illegally smuggled drugs. Imperialism refers to the tendency of agencies to grow without regard to the benefits their programs confer or the costs they entail. Because government agencies seek vague goals and have vague mandates from Congress, it's not surprising that they often take the broadest possible view of their powers. If they do not, interest groups and judges may prod them into doing so. Waste occurs when an agency spends more than is necessary to buy some product or perform some service. An example would be the purchase of, for example, $300 worth of hammers by the military. It should be clear that bureaucratic problems are hard to correct. Congress cannot always make the hard policy choices and set the clear priorities necessary to eliminate conflict and duplication. Government exists partly to achieve the kind of vague goals that resist clear cost-benefit analysis. Eliminating red tape might make coordination more difficult. Although Americans dislike the bureaucracy in general, studies show that they like the bureaucrats with whom they deal. For the reforming the bureaucracy, all right, obviously divided government makes this much more difficult. There have been numerous attempts to make the bureaucracy work better for less money. There were 11 different attempts, reform attempts in the 1900s. Prior reforms stressed increasing centralized control on behalf of efficiency, accountability, and consistency. The National Performance Review in 1993 designed to reinvent government, calling for a new kind of organizational structure. This was under the head of Vice President Al Gore. Its performance required less centralized management, more employee initiatives, and fewer detailed rules and more customer satisfaction. If you would like to see this discussed more effectively or more efficiently, see the third paragraph on page 423. President George W. Bush built on to the Government Performance Results Act using the Performance Assessment Activity Tool called PART. The goal was to link management reform to the budget process. That hasn't been real effective either. Bureaucratic reform is always difficult to accomplish. Most rules and red tape are due to struggles between the President and Congress or to agencies' efforts to avoid alienating influential voters, but rivalries continue. Periods of divided government worsen matters like we have today, especially in implementing policy, as you have seen. Presidents of one party seek to increase political control, that's executive micromanagement, and Congresses of another party respond by increasing investigations and rules, legislative micromanagement. I think if you look at one of the YouTube videos on the investigation of either Secretary of Defense Hagel or the investigation into the Benghazi incident and look at the way the response is between the senators and, at the time, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, I think you'll understand divided government a whole lot better.